My name is Isabella McCracken, but everyone calls me Bella. I'm 32 years old, and for most of my adult life, I believed love was something you built with quiet consistency, not fire or chaos. Maybe that's why I never saw the cracks forming until it was far too late. When Benny and I booked this trip, when I booked it, I told myself it was our reset button. A week in Mexico, away from the gray drizzle of home, the endless projects at his firm, the slow suffocation of our routines. I called it my gift to us. He didn't know I drained my savings to pay for it, the same account I'd labeled Future Fund. Now, sitting under the thick warmth of the Mexican sun, I wasn't sure if that future still existed. The pool shimmered like liquid glass. The air smelled of coconut oil and salt. Benny lay beside me, scrolling on his phone, the glow of the screen reflected in his sunglasses. I stared at the sea instead, at the place where the turquoise waves blurred into the horizon. For a moment, I let myself believe this view could heal us. "You're staring again," Benny said without looking up. I smiled faintly, just memorizing it. He sighed, setting his phone down. "You always do that, overthink a good moment." His tone was teasing, but I felt the sting anyway. "I'm just happy we're finally here," I said softly. "Yeah," he muttered, stretching his arms. "It's nice." Nice. Not beautiful, not special, just nice. I looked away before the sadness showed on my face. For the last 6 months, Benny had been somewhere else, maybe not physically, but mentally. "Work stress," he said. He came home late, tired, detached. I kept waiting for him to reach for me the way he used to. He didn't. So when I found this surprise vacation package online, I thought maybe this was how I could reach him. "Worth all those nights of takeout noodles and instant coffee," I joked, trying to lighten the silence. He chuckled. "Let's not talk about money, Bella. You know it ruins the mood." The words were small but sharp enough to leave a cut. So I turned back to the water, trying once again to enjoy the quiet. That's when I saw her. She was standing at the swim-up bar, tall, bronzed, effortlessly radiant. Her hair fell in glossy waves, her laughter slicing through the humid air like champagne fizz. Everyone noticed her. Even Benny did. Especially Benny. I tried to look away before his eyes followed mine, but I was too late. She caught him looking, and with the ease of someone who never doubted her power, she smiled not at me, but at him. Then, as if pulled by some invisible thread, she began walking toward us. When she reached our loungers, she dripped confidence and seawater. "Hey," she said, voice light and melodic. "You two look new here." Her accent was a blend of somewhere warm and expensive. "First day," I answered politely. She turned to Benny, eyes bright. "Ah, that explains the sunblock streaks. You'll learn." He laughed too easily, too eagerly. "Guess I will." "I'm Lena," she said, extending a perfectly manicured hand. "Benny," he replied, shaking it. I added Bella. Lena smiled at me briefly, but her attention snapped back to Benny like a magnet. "You have to try the passion fruit mojitos at the Palapa bar. The ones here are tragic." "We were just about to get another round," Benny said, though we weren't. "Perfect," Lena said, signaling the waiter with a small wave. "I'll order them. My treat. Consider it your welcome to paradise." I opened my mouth to protest, but Benny was already grinning. "Thanks." And that was it. The door was open. For the next hour, she held court, talking about her travels, her freedom, her portfolio of experiences. Bali, Morocco, Greece. Her voice made it all sound like poetry. I tried to join in, but every time I spoke, her gaze flicked past me, returning to Benny like I was invisible. He didn't seem to notice. Or maybe he did, and enjoyed it. When she laughed at something he said, that easy, warm laugh that seemed to curl around him like smoke, I felt something cold press against my chest. Jealousy. It had been so long since I'd felt that kind of sting, I almost didn't recognize it. "I'm going to grab us some towels," I said, standing up. Benny barely looked up. "Sure." As I walked toward the cabana, I glanced back. Lena leaned closer, her lips near his ear. Whatever she said made him smile, not the tired, distracted smile I'd gotten used to, but something different. Lighter. Alive. And in that moment, beneath the hot blue sky, I felt something heavy settle inside me. Not anger, not yet. Just a quiet, terrible understanding that the paradise I had paid for might become the place I'd lose everything. The next morning, I woke up to an empty bed. The sheets on Benny's side were cool, untouched for hours. For a few seconds, I wondered if he'd gone for a swim. Then I heard laughter from the pool below and hers. From the balcony, I spotted them. Benny and Lena at the swim-up bar. Heads bent close, their bodies angled toward each other with that subtle intimacy of people sharing a secret. Lena's hand brushed his arm lightly as she laughed. He didn't move away. The coffee in my hand went cold. When he finally came back to the room, his hair was damp, his skin glowing with the kind of happiness I hadn't seen in months. "Morning," I said, forcing calm. Hey, he replied, rummaging for his sunglasses. Lena said there's a coral reef nearby. We should check it out later. We, not you and me, just we. She said I repeated. He didn't catch the edge in my voice. Yeah, she's done a ton of diving trips here. Seems like she knows her stuff. Right, I said quietly. He looked up, finally noticing my silence. Come on, Bella, don't be weird. She's just friendly. I wanted to believe that. God, I did. But by lunchtime, Lena had joined us again, invited by him this time. She wore a white bikini and a silk wrap, the kind of effortless look I could never pull off. The waiter didn't even need to ask. Benny had already ordered her favorite drink. As she talked, her voice seemed to fill every corner of the open-air restaurant. Benny hung on every word, her stories about backpacking through Europe, the yoga retreat she hosted in Bali, the time she almost joined a documentary crew in the Amazon. When I tried to speak, she'd gently redirect the conversation always back to herself or Benny. So Bella, she finally asked, her tone too sweet. What do you do? I'm a project coordinator, I said. Mostly event logistics and partnerships. Her lips curved into something like a polite smile. Ah, that sounds stable. Benny chuckled, not realizing the insult laced in her tone. Yeah, he said. Bella keeps things organized. She's the responsible one. Responsible. The word landed like a stone. It wasn't a compliment, not the way he said it. Lena leaned her chin on her hand. I wish I could be that grounded. I'd lose my mind in that kind of structure. I wanted to reply, to say something sharp, something that reminded her she was sitting at my table with my boyfriend, but I didn't. Instead, I excused myself to get some air. In the restroom mirror, I barely recognized my own reflection. My hair was frizzy from the humidity, my skin too pale beside the tan glow of everyone around us. I touched my face, suddenly aware of how tired I looked. When had I started fading like this? When I returned, they were gone. The waiter gestured toward the beach. Your friends went to check out the sunset paddleboards. I walked toward the shore, the heat sinking into my skin like punishment. They were silhouettes against the orange horizon, Benny holding Lena's board steady as she climbed on. She wobbled, then fell into his arms, laughing. He laughed too, a full unguarded sound that broke something in me. That night I didn't confront him. I couldn't. Instead, I lay in bed listening to the ceiling fan hum while he scrolled through his phone beside me, smiling quietly at whatever he was reading. Who are you texting? I asked. He paused. Just group chat stuff. Work. A lie soft as a whisper. I rolled onto my side, staring at the faint outline of the ocean through the window. Benny, are you happy? He hesitated. What kind of question is that? An honest one. He exhaled. Bella, you worry too much. We're on vacation. Just let go a little, okay? Let go. The words echoed in my chest like a dare. The next day, Lena invited us to a local dinner spot, the real experience, she said. I wanted to say no, but Benny had already agreed. The restaurant was dimly lit, music, low candles flickering against glass. Lena told stories about her life, about quitting a corporate job at 28, selling everything and moving abroad. Benny listened, transfixed. That's brave, he said. It's living, she replied. Then turning to me, she added, You should try it sometime. I smiled tightly. Maybe I will. She didn't believe me. Neither did I. After dinner, she mentioned a private beach club she wanted to show Benny later. He looked at me uncertainly. You're tired, right, Bella? The words cut deeper than they should have. I'm fine, I said quietly. But he didn't invite me. He just kissed my forehead like I was a patient he pitied. Get some rest, okay? When the door closed behind him, I sat alone in the silence. Outside, the ocean roared softly, a reminder of how small I was in this vast, uncaring paradise. I waited for hours, staring at the moonlight spilling across the sheets. When he finally returned, it was nearly 2 a.m. He smelled of salt and smoke and something floral. He didn't say a word, just slipped into bed and turned away. I lay awake beside him, my heart no longer breaking, just hollowing out. And for the first time, a thought whispered through the numbness. Maybe I wasn't here to save us. Maybe I was here to watch the end. The following day, the air felt different, heavier. Even the ocean seemed quieter, as if holding its breath. Benny woke late, stretching like a man with no conscience. You should have come last night, he said casually. You'd have loved it. Would I asked. He shrugged, pouring himself coffee. Lena introduced me to some locals. The place was incredible, bonfire, live music, no tourists. She took you there. He nodded. Yeah, she's been here before, knows all the hidden spots. I stared at him. And it didn't occur to you to maybe ask me to come. His jaw tightened. You were tired, Bella. I didn't want to drag you out. I wasn't tired. I was waiting. He looked annoyed, like my hurt was an inconvenience. You're making this a thing again. Can't we just enjoy the trip? Enjoy. He said it so easily, as if joy were still something we shared. That afternoon, he left early to meet Lena for a quick surf lesson. He came back hours later sunburned and smiling, a fresh braid in his hair, the kind of messy charm he used to hate. I waited until we were back in the room before I said anything. "Benny," I began carefully. "What exactly is going on?" He blinked. "What do you mean?" "Between you and Lena." "Nothing's going on," he said too quickly. "We're just friends. Friends who spend every waking hour together." He sighed, sitting on the edge of the bed. "You're reading into things." "Am I?" I stepped closer. "Because from where I'm standing, you've barely looked at me in days. You don't talk to me, you don't touch me, and every time I try to reach you, you disappear with her." He rubbed his temples. "Bella, you're suffocating me." The words hit harder than a slap. "Suffocating you," I repeated, disbelief cracking my voice. He stood up, running a hand through his hair. "I just need space, okay, God? Not everything has to be some big emotional crisis." "Space," I whispered. "You needed space, so you found another woman to breathe with." His eyes flashed. "You know what your problem is. You take everything so seriously. You plan, you schedule, you organize, even love. You never just live." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "And Lena does. She's free," he said, voice softening with a kind of awe. "She doesn't care what people think. She just goes." I laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "So that's what this is. You're leaving me for a woman who makes you feel like a tourist in your own life." He stared at me, jaw set. "I'm not leaving you for anyone. I'm leaving because I finally feel something again. And it's not with you." Silence filled the room like water flooding a sinking ship. "You mean her," I said finally. He didn't deny it. I sat down, trying to breathe. The air felt thick, sharp. "After everything we've built, years, Benny, you're just walking away." His expression softened, almost pitying. "Bella, you're safe. You always have been. But safe isn't living." "Safe," I whispered. "You mean boring." He looked away. "You said it, not me." Something inside me cracked open then, not from anger, but clarity, the kind that burns. "Then go," I said quietly. "Be alive, Benny. Just don't come back pretending it was love." He frowned, surprised by my calm. "That's it." I nodded. "That's it." He stared for a long moment, maybe expecting tears, begging a dramatic scene. But I'd already given him everything, my patience, my hope, my future fund. There was nothing left to give. When the door closed behind him, the silence was deafening. I stood by the balcony, staring at the endless stretch of sea, the same sea that had shimmered with promise days ago. Now it looked endless in another way, like grief with no shore. The night fell slowly, the air thick with humidity and heartbreak. Down by the beach, I could see torches flickering, the same bonfire where he'd probably laugh again, held by someone else. I poured myself a drink, sat on the balcony, and let the realization settle. Love doesn't always end in thunder. Sometimes it just dissolves quietly like sugar in salt water. Hours passed. I lost count. At some point, I must have dozed off because when I opened my eyes, the room was darker and he was there. He smelled of smoke, rum, and perfume that wasn't mine. "I can't do this anymore, Bella," he said softly. The words were gentle but final. I nodded slowly because I'd known since that first afternoon at the pool. "Then don't." He blinked, caught off guard by my composure. "You're not even going to fight for me." I met his eyes. "No. You already chose what you want. I'm just making it easier for you to leave." Something flickered in his expression. Frustration, maybe even guilt, but it didn't matter. He picked up his bag and paused at the door. "You'll regret this." I smiled faintly. "No, Benny, you will." He left. The sound of the door closing was soft, almost tender, the last mercy of a dying thing. I stood there alone, the night pressing in on every side. Somewhere beyond the walls, the ocean murmured, endless, indifferent, alive. And in that darkness, one truth surfaced in my mind, clear as moonlight. He hadn't just ended us, he had freed me. The flight home was silent, except for the soft hum of the engine and the rustle of strangers flipping through in-flight magazines. I sat by the window watching the bright Mexican coast fade into gray clouds. Somewhere down there, Benny was still chasing his version of freedom. I didn't cry. Not once. The tears had already burned themselves out, somewhere between the bonfire and the moment he said, "You're safe, not living." What replaced them wasn't peace, not yet, but something colder, cleaner, a kind of emotional anesthesia. When the plane landed, I stepped out into the crisp gray air of home and felt a jolt of relief. The familiar chill, the smell of rain, even the quiet misery of the airport felt honest after the false paradise of Mexico. By the time I got back to our my apartment, the numbness had turned into a mission. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and froze. Everything looked the same. The throw pillows he'd hated, the candle that had burned halfway down the photo of us on the shelf, smiling like strangers who hadn't met reality yet. I took a deep breath and started. First, I called a locksmith. His drill screeched through the old lock, scattering metal dust like gunpowder. When he handed me the new keys, they felt heavier than they should. Cold. Final. Then I began packing. Not mine, his. His jacket still smelled faintly of his cologne, the one I'd bought him last Christmas. His shoes were lined neatly under the bed, his books stacked in precise order. I moved through the room like a machine, methodically folding boxing ceiling. No crying, no reminiscing, just execution. Every time I sealed another box, the silence grew lighter. By nightfall, 12 boxes stood in the living room, a monument to a love that had expired quietly in the sun. I rented a small storage unit online. 30 minutes later, I was driving through the drizzle, windshield wipers, tapping in rhythm. 3 trips back and forth. Load, drive, unload, repeat. When I locked the unit and slid the key into my pocket, I felt something sharp but satisfying settle in my chest. Power. The next morning, I texted him. Your personal items are stored at Safekeep Unit number 22B. Access code 1904. Paid through end of the month. After that, not my responsibility. Bella. Then I blocked his number. I didn't even wait for a response. Over the next few days, I dismantled every trace of him. New sheets, new coffee mug, new playlist. I painted the bedroom wall a deep forest green, bold and moody, the kind of color he'd have called too much. It felt good, liberating, like reclaiming territory I'd once surrendered. Friends texted asking if I was okay. I replied, I'm fine, because it was mostly true. The emptiness that used to scare me now felt like space to breathe, to think, to just be. A week passed before the first call came. Unknown number. I didn't answer. 30 seconds later, a voicemail notification blinked. Bella, what the hell? The keys don't work. Where are my things? Call me back. His voice angry, confused, still arrogant. I played it once, then deleted it. Another day, another number, another voicemail. This is insane. You can't just lock me out. You're being dramatic. Grow up. Delete. Then came one from a mutual friend, Aaron, one of his coworkers. Bella, I know you're mad, but Benny's not doing well. That woman he met, Lena, she took everything. His money, his cards, even his passport. He's stuck there. He's been calling me from a hostel. You can't just leave him like this. I almost laughed. Can't leave him. He'd done exactly that to me, just with a prettier view. I texted back one line, not my problem. Then I blocked her too. That night, I opened a bottle of wine, sat on the couch, and let the quiet wrap around me. For the first time in months, the silence wasn't suffocating. It was sacred. Still, a thought crept in. Not pity, not nostalgia, just curiosity. Was this how karma worked? Quietly, precisely. My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Then, unable to resist, I pressed play. Bella, please, I'm sorry. She lied about everything. I don't even have a place to stay. Just talk to me, please. His voice cracked halfway through the way it used to when he'd try to hide emotion. I stared at the phone for a long time, then placed it face down on the table. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel anger. I felt nothing. And that nothing, that clean, weightless nothing was freedom. I thought silence was the end. I was wrong. It started 3 days later. Another number. Another voicemail. Bella, please. I messed up. Lena, she drained my accounts. Everything's gone. I'm stuck here with nothing. You don't have to take me back. Just help me get home. He sounded small, deflated. The confident tone that once filled rooms was gone, replaced by panic. I didn't respond, not because I wanted to hurt him, but because I was finally done being his safety net. A day later, my phone buzzed again. Different number. This time, I didn't let it go to voicemail. I answered curiosity, not compassion. Bella. Oh, thank God. It was Benny. His voice broke. You have no idea what's happened. Lena, she was a scam artist. She took everything, even my passport. I had to sleep at the airport for 2 nights. I'm begging you, just stop. My tone was even, cold. Whatever you're about to ask, the answer is no. There was a pause filled only by his shaky breath. You don't mean that. I do. You chose her, Benny. You made your decision under the same sun that's now burning you. Jesus, Bella, you sound heartless. No, I said. I just stopped volunteering to be your savior. He cursed softly under his breath, then the line went dead. I put my phone on silent and returned to my evening cooking pasta, pouring wine, opening the window to let in the sound of rain. I almost smiled. It felt cinematic, like I was watching a scene from someone else's life, a version of me who'd finally learned how to protect her peace. But karma wasn't done performing. That night, a mutual friend, Clara, the one who used to double date with us, called. I picked up. "Bella, he's home," she said, breathless. "He came back yesterday. Lena left him stranded. He looks awful." "I'm sure he does." "Don't be cruel, Bella. He's been through hell. He's saying he lost everything." "Then maybe he finally understands what that means," I replied quietly. She hesitated. "He said you changed the locks." "I did." "God, you really went through with it." "I always finish what I start, Clara." She exhaled the kind of sigh that carries judgment disguised as pity. "I just hope you can live with it." "I already am," I said and hung up. For the first time in a long time, I slept soundly. The next morning, the text began. "Bella, please. I know I hurt you. I can't eat. I can't sleep. You were right about her. I was stupid. You were my home. Please let me come back and explain. I'm outside your building. I just need 5 minutes." I didn't go near the window. I didn't reply. I blocked the number again. But the messages kept coming, new numbers, new pleas. Desperation had a way of finding cracks to seep through. Then one message stopped me cold. "Do you ever think about the good times, the way you used to laugh with me? You can't tell me none of that was real." I stared at the words for a long moment before deleting them. Because yes, it had been real once. That was what made it all so tragic. But love doesn't stay love when it becomes one-sided devotion. It curdles into something else, pity, guilt, habit. He mistook my silence for weakness. 2 days later, I got another call. This time I answered before the first ring finished. "Benny," I said evenly. He inhaled sharply. "You answered." "I won't again." "Please, Bella, just listen. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want you to know. I get it now. Everything you said. I was selfish. I thought I was chasing life, but I was just running from myself." His voice cracked raw and wet. "She left me with nothing. I thought she was my spark. But all she did was burn everything down." There was a long silence. I could hear the wind through his phone, the faint hum of passing cars. "Do you want me to feel sorry for you?" I asked finally. "No, I want you to see that I've changed." "Benny," I said softly, "you don't understand. You're not part of my story anymore. Whatever you've become, good or bad, it's no longer my concern." He sniffed. "You can't just erase everything." "I didn't erase it," I replied. "I archived it. That's the difference." He made a broken sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. "You always had a way with words. And you always had a way of wasting them." I ended the call. This time I didn't block him. I didn't need to. Because for the first time since Mexico, I felt untouchable. His chaos no longer reached me. His voice no longer had gravity. Later that night, as I sat by the window watching the rain streak down the glass, I thought about the irony of it all, how the universe doesn't need our revenge to settle scores. Sometimes it just returns the lesson with perfect timing. And for once, I didn't wish him pain. I just wished him awareness, the slow, suffocating kind that comes when you realize you destroyed something that would have loved you forever. That was karma's final gift. 2 months later, I barely recognized the woman in the mirror. The same eyes, the same face, but there was something new in them. Not hardness, not arrogance, just peace. I had moved into a high-rise apartment on the east side, big windows, clean light, no ghosts. My mornings started with yoga and silence, not apology and compromise. My work was thriving. My laughter came easier. Sometimes people ask if I'm seeing anyone. The truth is, yes, a kind man named Noah. We met at a ceramics class of all places. He's gentle, funny, thoughtful. He never makes me feel like I have to shrink to fit next to him. But this isn't his story. This is about the day the past tried one last time to pull me back. It was late. I'd just finished a client meeting and was walking through the underground parking garage, heels echoing off concrete. The air smelled faintly of rain and exhaust. I clicked my car key. The headlights blinked, a quiet confirmation of routine control safety. Then a voice came from the shadows. "Bella." I froze. He stepped into the light. "Benny." For a split second, I couldn't breathe. He looked nothing like the man I remembered. His once neatly styled hair hung limp eyes, hollowed-out clothes, wrinkled and damp from the drizzle. He had aged not in years, but in consequence. He gave a nervous laugh. "You look incredible." "Benny," I said slowly, "what are you doing here?" "I needed to see you." His voice trembled, desperate. "I tried calling, but you changed your number." "I had to," I replied. "You didn't respect silence." He took a step forward. "Please, just hear me out." "I've lost everything, Bella. The job, the apartment, my savings. After Lena, nothing worked. I thought I'd rebuild, but stop. My tone was calm, deliberate. You're not here to confess. You're here to see if there's still a version of me who'll save you. He blinked. I don't need saving. Yes, you do, I said softly. You always did. You just disguised it as freedom. He looked down, shame written across his face. I made a mistake. I tilted my head. No, Benny. You made a choice. There's a difference. His eyes glistened, voice breaking. I think about you every day. I can't eat. I can't sleep. I see you everywhere. That's not love, I said. That's regret. He stepped closer, pleading now. Please. I know I don't deserve it, but if you could just give me one more chance. I laughed softly, not cruelly, just honestly. Do you even know who you're talking to anymore? He frowned. What do you mean? The woman you left in Mexico, I said, meeting his eyes, doesn't exist anymore. You broke her. And in the ruins, something stronger grew. Someone who finally learned her worth. He looked stricken. You really don't feel anything. I feel peace. He swallowed hard, his voice dropping to a whisper. I thought you'd want to see me suffer. I don't, I said truthfully. That would mean I still care enough to hate you. For a moment, we just stood there. Two ghosts from a story that no longer mattered. The garage lights hummed overhead. Somewhere far away, a car door slammed, echoing through the silence. I turned toward my car. Bella, wait, his voice cracked. Can we at least talk? Maybe get coffee, start over as friends? I opened the door and looked at him one last time. You misunderstood, Benny. He blinked. What? This isn't about forgiveness. My voice was calm, almost gentle. It's about irrelevance. He flinched as if the word itself stung. The man you used to know, the one who waited, begged, and believed she's gone. The woman standing here doesn't have space for you. Not in her mind, not in her peace, not even in her anger. I stepped into the car, closing the door slowly, deliberately. The sound echoed through the garage like a period at the end of a long, painful sentence. Through the windshield, I saw him standing there, small, broken, still, searching for the control he'd lost the moment he let me go. I started the engine. The headlights washed over him for a second before I shifted into reverse. He raised a hand, maybe to stop me, maybe to wave. I didn't wait to find out. As I drove away, I didn't look in the rearview mirror, not once. Because when you finally heal, you learn that closure isn't something you find in someone else's apology. It's something you create by walking away. And that's what I did. I didn't win. I didn't lose. I simply became. He didn't just lose me, I whispered to myself as the city lights blurred past. He lost access to the woman I became, the one who finally knew her worth. The rain outside softened to a drizzle, and for the